Continuing to get excellent views from the imagery assets out at sea in the Pacific of Integrity. We continue to get good reports from the landing and support officer who's in contact with the recovery team that the crew is in excellent shape, no issues. They're just currently biding their time, waiting for the front porch to be erected. We have no hazardous hazard gases and no hazardous situation with the vehicle. It performed perfectly all the way down from entry interface to its splashdown in the Pacific at 7:07 and 27 seconds p.m. Central Time. And as you can see, the first phalanx of recovery personnel now pulling up alongside of Integrity. This includes Navy divers and Navy flight surgeon and other recovery personnel who have trained for several years for this recovery process. At this hour, some 41 minutes following splashdown, the vehicle has been powered down. There's no hazardous gas emanating from the vehicle. That's why the first team of recovery personnel has been able to pull alongside Integrity. And the reports continue to come in that the 4 astronauts are in excellent shape. Yes. This is Mission Control Houston, continuing to watch the initiation of the recovery of Integrity's astronauts. One by one, they'll be brought out of the spacecraft onto a large inflatable raft just a short time from now. In the meantime, we can go back to the USS John P. Murtha, where my colleague Megan Cruz is standing by to provide her situation report. Megan, can you hear us?
Hey, Rob. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Yeah, we're back here on the bow of the recovery ship where there are still plenty of people peering out into the water. We are not very far from the action everyone is seeing on their screen now. The Orion spacecraft, Integrity, in the ocean, surrounded by a number of recovery boats. As Rob has been saying, in those recovery boats, NASA and Navy personnel specifically trained to get the astronauts out of Orion. In some of our wide shots, you can probably see that there are 6 boats out in the water. More than 40 people out in the water right now on those boats. First order of business is to set up the front porch and the stabilization collar. You might also hear it referred to as a stab collar. Basically just to make sure that Orion stays upright, doesn't sway in the water too much, again, to make it easier for recovery forces to get the astronauts out. Again, we splashed down in the Pacific Ocean just after 5 p.m. Pacific time here. It's a requirement by NASA to be able to get the crew out of Orion within 2 hours of splashdown. So doing great on time so far. Plenty of time. No rush either. I was speaking to NASA flight surgeon Rick Schuring earlier in this broadcast, and he said to me, no rush to get the crew out. Just want to make sure that they're feeling good. And whenever they're ready to take their step out of Orion and onto that large raft, the front porch, folks will be ready. Folks will be ready. As there are mission audio loops in Mission Control in Houston, there is a mission audio loop here on the ship. There is a mission audio loop reported out that the side hatch is open. Just reported out that the side hatch is open. Side hatch of integrity is open. Side hatch of integrity is open. You're getting these beautiful shots from our aerial assets. You're getting these beautiful shots from our aerial assets. Where I'm on just 3,000 yards away. The ship itself, where I'm on just 3,000 yards away. Again, plenty of people on the boat here. Again, plenty of people to the side.
As we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, the last time that the Apollo program in the Pacific was Apollo 17 back on December 19th, 1972. So for the first time, in 53 and a half years, we have reenacted that with the arrival of Integrity's astronauts a lunar flyby that began with a lunar injection that took them out of Earth orbit following 24 hours of a high Earth orbit trajectory. The high Earth orbit trajectory enabled flight controllers here to have a full 24 hours to evaluate the systems on integrity and the condition of the crew before they would commit to flying to the moon. With the side hatch of Orion having been opened to set the stage for the erection of the inflatable life raft, known as the front porch, to be erected alongside the spacecraft for the extraction of the crew. Let's play for you an interview that my colleague Megan Cruz conducted on the USS John P. Murtha with Navy diver First Class David McMahon that explains how this process is unfolding.
Okay, Davey, so you and some of your team, one last look over of the stabilization collar, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is this stabilization collar?
This is what's going to stabilize the capsule out there in the ocean. We don't know how good the weather or the waves will be that day, so this will help prevent any unnecessary occurrences from happening, stabilizing the capsule and the astronauts inside.
So basically this is a float that will go around Orion. I'm assuming that what they're doing right now, these are the lines that will attach the collar onto Orion?
That is correct.
And so what are they doing here?
So we've got the lower line that will secure the inflation device before we inflate it. That gives us the go-ahead that it's secure in its space, and then we'll inflate it, and then once that is done, we'll undo all the carabiners and get this orange line on top tied in the same fashion, and then this will be secured to the capsule, and the astronauts can safely take their first steps out of the capsule onto the front porch.
Okay, and how long will it take them to set up the stabilization collar?
We should definitely be able to handle this in under 10 minutes.
Okay, wow. And then you just mentioned the front porch. So basically after they set up the stabilization collar, then they set up what's called the front porch here.
That's correct.
Okay, and what's the front porch?
Front porch is basically a bigger waiting room for the astronauts to sit in while we wait for the helicopters to show up and grab them.
Okay, so the medical team that was inside with the crew, they're going to help them out and onto the front porch?
That is correct.
And then what happens here?
We have higher trained medical personnel also on board the front porch that will give them lookovers and just make sure they're okay while we wait for the helicopters to show up.
Okay. How does it feel, I mean, your team, you, to be part of a mission that's returning astronauts from the moon in more than 50 years?
We all feel extremely honored to be a part of this, as well as a bigger mission for the Navy and joining up with NASA to do great things.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you and your team are ready?
Yes, very ready.
Cool. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, the recovery operations are continuing out in the Pacific. We shortly should see that life raft, the front porch, erected alongside the side hatch of the vehicle.
All these views you see also being fed to the Landing Force Operations Center here on the ship. Of course, it is very important for our recovery teams.
Brought out of the spacecraft onto a large inflatable raft
to have all
just
the
a
views
short
that you're
time from
seeing as
now.
well.
In the meantime, we can go back to the USS John P. Murtha.
Again, listening to their communication loop here on the ship. Very quiet, which is a good thing. It means things are going pretty nominally, meaning as expected.
Just a short time from now. In the meantime, we can go back to the USS John P. Murtha.
Again, all this activity happening just 3,000 yards away from the ship. So that means this will be a very quick flight back on the helicopters for the crew. 2-3 minutes and then they'll be back here on the ship.
I know.
Okay, saw a thumbs up from one of the personnel on the front porch. It looks like they are now getting ready to deploy what they call the Air Rescue Vest, ARV. And so this is the harness that each crew member will get into in order to be hoisted into the helicopters. Again, those helicopters hovering just about 40 feet above the front porch when they're ready to pick up each crew member. And so this is the harness that each crew member will get into in order to be hoisted into the helicopters. Those helicopters hovering just about 40 feet above the front porch when they're ready to pick.
This is Mission Control Houston. Behind me, a fairly raucous scene as hundreds of flight controllers have poured into the flight control room here. This is reminiscent of the scene after the final shuttle mission of STS-135, although that was the end of a program. This is only the beginning of a program with the textbook splashdown of Integrity and its 4 astronauts. We're standing by for the crew to be extracted from the spacecraft. Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling invited all of these flight controllers who have contributed to this mission to enter the flight control room to have an opportunity to receive well wishes and to share the mutual glow that exists in the wake of a textbook mission for Integrity. On the front screen here in Mission Control, a sign that says "Welcome home, Integrity, taking humanity back to the moon, going further, and returning safely to Earth." So all of that jubilation, part of the post-splashdown activities, even as we await the crew being extracted from the vehicle to be hoisted onto Navy helicopters for the trip back to the USS John P. Murtha. Once again here in Mission Control, this view of the Artemis Flight Control Room, known as the White Flight Control Room. This is the old shuttle flight control room, and now is the home of Artemis missions to the moon and beyond. Once again, quite a few flight controllers were invited in by Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling to share in the jubilation following the successful splashdown of Integrity. That splashdown occurring an hour and 22 minutes ago, as we stand by for the completion of the extraction of the crew, and ultimately they're hoisting onto Navy helicopters for a short flight back to the USS John P. Murtha. Following the successful splashdown Splashdown occurred at 7:07 and 27 seconds p.m. Central Time. I had an opportunity to talk to the head of Flight Dynamics, Jeff Birch, a moment or two ago. He said the trajectory of Integrity coming through the Earth's atmosphere was so precise, they've never seen anything line up on a ground track like today's entry by Integrity for its splashdown southwest of San Diego. And the initial, you can hear it. Jubilation here in the flight control room. The first crew member is out of Integrity. Jubilation here in the flight control room. Crew member is out of Integrity. We are expecting the other crew members momentarily to be extracted. We now have two crew members out. We are expecting the other crew members momentarily to be extracted. We now have two crew members out. Two crew members out, two to go. Two crew members out, two to go. Two crew members out, two to go. We're about 1 hour from sunset out in the Pacific. Everything continues to go well. Integrity's systems function perfectly during its entry back to Earth. And Reed Wiseman, the commander who will be last out of the vehicle, reported that all the crew members were feeling very well. Everything continues to go well. Integrity's systems function perfectly during its entry back to Earth. And Reed Wiseman, the commander who will be last out of the vehicle. Crew member number 3 now out. And now standing by for the commander, Reed Wiseman, who will be last out of his ship. Bobbing in the Pacific under almost ideal conditions, Integrity spanned 694,000 miles during its journey from launch to splashdown. Bobbing in the Pacific under almost ideal conditions, 694,000 miles from launch to splashdown. During its journey from launch to splashdown. Bobbing in the Pacific under almost ideal conditions, 694,000 miles from launch during its journey from launch to splashdown. And we now have Reed Wiseman out of the vehicle, all 4 crew members now out of Integrity. Once again, all 4 crew members now on the front porch, and the procedure to begin hoisting them up to these 2 Navy helicopters hovering overhead will begin shortly. Once again, all 4 crew members now on the front porch, and the procedure to begin hoisting them up to these 2 Navy helicopters hovering overhead will begin shortly. This is Mission Control Houston. The mission is over, but the melody lingers on as jubilation continues here in the flight control room. We should be expecting NASA's Associate Administrator, Amit Kshatriya, to be joining us shortly for a short interview while the recovery operations continue out in the Pacific. So we'll stand by for that. And then we'll turn it back over to Megan Cruz aboard the USS John P. Murtha. This is Mission Control Houston here in the Artmis Flight Control Room. A number of flight controllers basking in the glory of the successful end of this mission that carried 4 astronauts around the moon on a lunar flyby, and the first test flight of Orion with crew members on board. Splashdown occurring an hour and 32 minutes ago after a flawless descent back into the Earth's atmosphere for the vehicle. Its 4 crew members in good shape, simply enjoying their time right now on the front porch, as it were, the inflatable raft alongside of their Integrity spacecraft. We're expecting Amit Kshatriya, the NASA Associate Administrator, to join us here momentarily for a brief interview before we turn it back over to Megan Cruz aboard the USS John P. Murtha, the recovery ship. This is Mission Control Houston. We're about an hour and 34 minutes since the textbook splashdown of integrity in the Pacific to bring home our astronauts. And with us now is Amit Kshatriya, the NASA Associate Administrator. Amit, a little bit of history made tonight, a little bit of history made over the past few weeks. Your thoughts as this team here basks in the glow of what they just accomplished.
Yeah, Rob, we're here in the control center, and it's kind of overrun with jubilant folks in the Mission Control Houston, as well as engineering, and folks that just want to be here, part of it, as we watch our crew get extracted from the vehicle. And my thought is always about these teams, the team that's in the water right now pulling the crew out, the team here in Houston that worked so hard over the last 10 days, no sleep to get this done. We still have some work to do to get the crew to the med bay here on the ship. They all look great coming out, so hopefully that won't be too long. I think we saw the administrator on the boat too, giving his thanks to the Navy team on the Mirtha, which they're just an incredible group of sailors. I was able to visit with them a couple weeks ago. And then if you pull it all the way back to the workers and the folks that joined the rocket at Michoud, that made the heat shield tiles that held together tonight, that stacked the vehicle in Florida, that integrated the vehicle in Denver, that fired the engines in Stennis, that fired the boosters in Promontory. I mean, this is the entire team, coming together and being tested by the environment that this machine went through, and they did it right. The work was good. They did it right.
You've said in a number of briefings, of course, and in other forums that this is just the first step. The cadence has to step up, as the administrator has indicated. Now, it's a little early for the full report card on how Integrity did, but did this mission ultimately, from your eyes view, exceed? How captivating was this experience for the American people?
NASA's given a lot over the last few weeks about, we did this before 53 years ago, and that, it is a reasonable thing to contemplate, like what's gone on since then. And what I'd tell you is, when we did Apollo, which, again, the more we learn about what they did, the more magical it seems what they were able to accomplish, given the technology and the learnings that they had. But when we did Apollo, the architects of Apollo, Gilruth, Seaman, von Braun, Mueller, what they really wanted to do, as they were contemplating what it meant to expand our range of action to the lunar surface, what they wanted to do was learn how to live and work in space for a long time. They wanted to do that first before they were confident they could expand their range of action to the moon. Now, of course, the politics of the time and the mission at the time was different, and so they had to go straight to the moon and bring